Okay, I'm Steve Temes. I'm an indoor air quality consultant. I've been investigating building-related health effects for over 25 years. One of my consulting specialties is working with people with chemical sensitivities. Done extensive research in the literature over a period of decades, on and off, and I'm making this video to address one of my pet peeves with regard to chemical sensitivities, namely that advocates for people with MCS and even medical doctors who treat people with MCS have a perception or presumption that toxic chemicals are responsible for the chemical hypersensitivity effects. For example, people will say that perfume formulations have toxic chemicals in them, and that's a problem. And people will say that toxic ingredients in some sort of household product is responsible for their health effects. The purpose here is for me to point out that chemical sensitivities are just that. They're hypersensitivities, just like an allergic reaction is a hypersensitivity reaction. It's very analogous to chemical sensitivities in that it's an individually acquired disorder. In the case of allergy, there's an adaptive immune system creation of an immunoglobulin protein, IgE antibody, for a particular exogenous protein molecule. The lock and key theory, where that complex has a receptor on a mast cell, releasing histamine, causing inflammation. In the case of chemical sensitivities, there's a chemoreceptor mechanism, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but the idea is that a person who had not reacted to something prior to becoming sensitized and is reacting to something that other people do not react to, this is an acquired chemical hypersensitivity. It has nothing to, people aren't born with it. It has nothing to do with a toxic effect. In fact, the health effects experienced typically are neurologic effects such as cognitive impairment, brain fog, burning, tingling sensations in the lips or tongue, more serious effects, respiratory, reactive airways dysfunction syndrome, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, gastrointestinal, irritable bowel type symptoms. These are, very serious in some cases and can be life-threatening in some cases. But the effect is not a toxic effect in the sense of dose-response toxicology, where someone is being poisoned by a chemical. It's the body's reaction to the exposure that causes the inflammatory effect, and that is a neurologic effect. So we shouldn't be looking for toxins as a cause of these symptoms, just like in the case of a severe allergy to cats or peanuts. We don't talk about toxic cats or toxic peanuts. We talk about a severe reaction and to these otherwise non-hazardous exposures. So for the person who's experiencing the symptoms, say I'm having a severe effect as a result of an exposure to my hypersensitivity trigger, I can say that that exposure, that chemical, is toxic to me, which is a good way of thinking of it. It's true in a general sense, but it doesn't meet the definition scientifically of what a toxin is. So to say that it's toxic to me is fair, but it wouldn't be toxic to a toxicologist who's looking at that exposure situation. And that's the point I want to make, is that people should not be looking for toxic exposures to explain chemical hypersensitivity effects. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that fragrance formulations might not contain a harmful ingredient. I'm saying that the reaction is not due to a harmful exposure based on toxicologic properties. I'm absolutely a proponent of fragrance-free workplaces and fragrance-free public spaces, not because I think that aroma chemicals are toxic, but because they restrict access to many people who are chemically sensitive.